7 days ago, I told you I was the perfect wife in 3 marriages. Some of you left me comments saying that I was weak, I was a doormat, I should have just left. Before you judge me again, let me explain the neuroscience. The Fawn response is a survival mechanism, not a character flaw. And if you think this is about blaming men or being a victim, then you're totally wrong. Watch the next 19 minutes, because what I'm about to explain will completely change how you see this story. I'm 69 now. I've changed, I've done the work, and I'm here to explain, not complain. I told you I was the perfect wife 3 times. I cooked every meal. I tidied, I cleaned, I kept myself looking nice. I did the garden, I looked after the children, I cleaned his shed. I did everything that I thought would keep him happy, in other words. And 1,411 of you asked me why. Why did I do that? And in truth, at the time, I don't know why I did it. Because it didn't make me perfect. It's only recently that I have found out why my behaviour was so, I was going to say foolish, but in retrospect, I suppose it was, because it wasn't appreciated. But why did I act like that? What was it in me that created this need to constantly people please and appease whoever I'm with? Because it just wasn't only in marriages, it was everyone. Everyone. And then I found out why. There is scientific evidence, neuroscience, that shows when you've had a traumatic childhood, when you've had situations where you feel unsafe, then your brain rewires itself. And you either fight, you flee, you freeze, or you fawn. And the fawn thing is what I did. I fawned. I people pleased. I tried every which way but up to make that person happy so that they wouldn't attack me. And that began in my childhood. When you have a mother like mine, and don't get me wrong, she did have a good side. She was capable of being really generous and kind and loving. But schizophrenia made sure she had another side, a side that was chaotic. A side that you didn't know what you were going to be presented with when you came home from school. And it is precisely that apparently rewired my brain. And I've only just found this out at 69. Now, I'm not a person to want to blame anyone at all, for my own actions, because, they're my actions. I did it. I just have to admit it. I did it, and I've never thought that I had an excuse for it. I just thought it was stupid, foolish, gullible. I've called myself every name in the book, and I suspect if you're in the same position as me, And you've done the same too. And it's miserable. But when you read something like that, it's called the Fawn response. It's got a name. And it literally rewires your brain so that you are hypervigilant and you make sure that you appease everybody so that you're not in danger. Now, I've never been a fighter. I've never been an aggressive person, so I suppose that would be my thing, wouldn't it? I just did it. But at 50, I started making changes. I didn't know that I was trying to rewire my brain because I didn't know about the Fawn response, and I urge you to look it up. Google it or something. Because the next time you're feeling really guilty about your behaviour in the past, and goodness only knows, we baby boomers have so many things in our past because we're that much older that we're sorry about and that we blame ourselves for. But what I'm telling you is there is often a reason for it, and it actually belongs in your childhood. Now, I can see you might be thinking, oh, we're going down the childhood route. It's all down to your mother and father. Well, actually, science proves that it is. That childhood traumas can actually affect you for the rest of your life and cause you to keep on repeating the same behavioural errors over and over again. I will give you an example of my mum's behaviour. One day when I was very little, and I can actually remember this, I can actually visualise it. I was standing outside a toy shop because I'd seen a great big doll in the window, and it was blonde, it was lovely, and I really would have liked it. And my mum was walking up the high street, and I stayed in front of that window, and she turned around and she shouted at me to catch up. And I can literally remember thinking, if I stand in front of this window, maybe she'll come back and she will see what I'm staring at and feel sorry for me and buy it. Well, she did come back because I was ignoring her. And she grabbed me by the arm, and with her other hand, she slapped me all the way down the high street. I got so many wallops for ignoring her. She was like that. There was no, you wait until your father gets home and he'll tell you what for. She was instant justice. She had a terrible temper. Absolutely terrible temper. She would get a bee in her bonnet and she would start off slowly, and then she'd walk out of the room, and then she'd come back in and she would add to the argument, one-sided argument, and then she would go back out again and she'd come in again, and this would go on for at least half an hour, by which time, the last time she would come in, she would be screaming at me with her finger pointing in my face and talking through clenched teeth and telling me off. I had to sit there with a blank expression on my face, because if I had anything other than that, she would say, and don't look at me like that, and be even angrier. Once I made the mistake of, when she asked me, who do you think you're looking at? And I said, you. Oh, Lord, didn't I get a wallop? The trouble was that 10 minutes later, she'd be back to normal, and she couldn't understand why I'd be upset. She didn't remember it. This carried on all of my life when I was living with my mum. She was mercurial. And then one day, when I had been staying with her, this happened when I was 14, and I was already going out with the boy that would then become my husband later on. She had got very angry, something about him. I think it was because he didn't have a suit. Anyway, this carried on. She started getting angry. I was in the living room and she got angrier and angrier. She kept on coming in and out of the room, and the volume and the anger would increase with every speech she gave me. And the last parting shot that night, because it did go on for way more than half an hour, she said to me, "Don't you fall asleep tonight, because if you do, so help me God, I'll come in here and stab you." And walked out of the room. Now, I didn't go to sleep. I sat in that room and I watched the door. I didn't dare go to sleep because, she'd said that. Now, it's that kind of trauma that sets you up for a life of fawning, people-pleasing, being the perfect wife, friend, neighbour, all of it. Because you're hyper-vigilant, you really don't want to incur their ire. You do everything under the sun to please them, even if you're not getting anything back. Because actually, you're trying to keep yourself safe. Your brain has been rewired. And for the first time in my life, I realise it's not my fault. I'm the first person to accept blame. I never think that I'm a victim because that doesn't sit well with me. And my perfect wife video was to show people that I wasn't perfect, because otherwise they'd never have cheated on me, would they? The perfect person. But I was trying to be perfect. I was trying to not have a row, incur their wrath. Because you never know what's going to happen. I tell you, I am the person who jumps at everything. Even if I see somebody walking down our path and then they ring the doorbell, I jump. Now, what's all that about? I feel as if my nerves are constantly jangling. I am hypervigilant, and it must be from that time. Little did I know. The Fawn response isn't a character flaw. It's a response mechanism to keep you safe that you learned when you were small and defenceless. My mum was my carer. She was the be-all and end-all of my life when I was living with her. And that's why I became the person that I am. And if you've been through the same, that's why you are as you are. Not because you're weak, not because you're foolish, not because of all those other adjectives that you could give yourself that don't belong to you. You were traumatized. And that's what happens. But there are therapies that you can do, and I'll list them below in the description. But I didn't know about them when I was 50, and I started to change. I was fed up with being a people pleaser because I knew that it got me absolutely nothing. So I started saying no. I mean, it's only 2 letters. Who would think it would be so hard? Who would think that you can just say no and then be done with it? Without an explanation, I say. But I did. And saying no is like exercising the tiniest, weeniest muscle in your entire body. And it's scary to say no, and it's scary to think that somebody might say, well, why not? Why don't you do it? You've got the time. Because I don't want to, would be my response. Then I'd leave the room quietly. I still wouldn't argue, but I would just leave the room quietly and say, no, I don't want to. And that's it. No, I'm not going to. I don't want to do that. And each time you do it, you wait for the fallout, and then you realise that there hasn't been one. Probably because they've fallen on the floor with shock. No, not really, but it's not your usual way of being. And little by little, I changed myself. I started saying no to people, politely, but nevertheless no. And each time I did it, the roof didn't fall in. They didn't begin to hate me. Things started getting better. And so by the time I met my darling boy, he got me without the people pleasing. And he loves me anyway. He says he loves me no matter what, without all this slap on, without my hair being done, everything. So what I'm saying to you is, please be kind to yourself. Look up the Fawn response. It's not your fault if you're a people pleaser. That's how your brain rewired itself. And you can rewire it back slowly. Doesn't have to be overnight. I don't think it could be done overnight, but I will leave some information in the description below. And the other thing I found out, given that I have so many health issues, is that a traumatic childhood can reflect in your health later on in life. It can cause anxiety and depression and all sorts of health issues. And perhaps that's why I've got so many these days, because it took me so long to address the people pleasing. I'll be tackling another women's issue in my next video. I do hope you can join me. And in the meantime, if you have been, thanks so much for watching. Lots of love. Bye-bye.